And good evening. Today is February 5th, 2025, and this is recording 793, entitled Believe and Rejoice. Believe and rejoice. And I'm quite sure you can see the connection right there, because one who believes can rejoice in the result. Why? Because the result will remain the same every time that belief is challenged. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to waver. You don't have to think of what might happen. You know because you have believed and you have researched. And because you have researched, you have produced the result that will be there every time this principle is challenged. Believing is the understanding of truth which separates the believer from him that believes not. You cannot be accepted where truth is not understood and honored. Here we are beginning to see what a believer is. He is not one who just memorizes or accepts the intellectual understanding of something. The principle is you cannot be accepted where truth is not understood and honored. That means with my back against the wall, I stand and believe. Why do I believe? Because I know the end result. The diligent seeking of truth results in the revealing of truth in its fullness. That's what I just said. I'm just kind of reiterating. The diligent seeking of truth means research. And in finding the facts of this research reveals the fullness of truth. It comes from the kingdom, fulfilling all the Father has decreed. This coming reproves the world of its denial of the one sent. In other words, as you receive truth to be truth, it now reproves everything opposite of truth. Everything that you look at, it reproves it, because now it is revealing the one that was sent. The evil of this world is now judged and cast out. See? It doesn't mean that evil has been cast out of everybody's life. It's cast out of your experience. That's what Jesus said, I have overcome the world. And yet here we are, 2024 years later, still dealing with the evils that were there when he walked the earth, and many more that have been created or brought about since he left. This is the operation of truth, to set you free, to proclaim the glory of God, and to set free all that have been held in bondages, get this, of their own creating. No, you did not set out to entangle yourself, but you did based on what your sensual perceptions were, what you saw, heard, tasted, touched, or smelled. You declared real in your conscience, creating a captivity. That's why the scripture said, we just had this past Sunday, my people have gone into captivity because they don't have knowledge. The Spirit of truth comes to all. It must be welcomed. And when welcomed, it will guide one into the depths of truth, that there be no misunderstanding of the Father. The reason people are not set free today is because they have a misunderstanding of the Father. Most people see God as a being, like a human, that they could just walk in and he'll be sitting there and you can sit down and talk to him. That's not what God is. If you recall on the mountain, when Moses asked God, "Who shall I say? What is your name?" God said, "I will be what I will be." That means he can take any shape, form, whatever that he chooses to get his point across. Therefore, a man cannot define God. I don't care how you try. You cannot define God, because I guarantee you, he will not be that which you have described. This truth of the Father will glorify all things of the Father, that his and my peace be fulfilled. The Father shall delight in the temple. His delight will fulfill the temple. And with this coming, with this fulfillment, will come a rejoicing that cannot be taken away. Freedom to ask of the Father in confidence, and all requests shall be fulfilled. Why? Because I have found him. As I have found the principle of the things that I depend on, I have found the principle called God. Believe and rejoice. Believe and rejoice. What an awesome twosome. It is written that to properly honor anything, one must believe that it exists as an answer, a solution, a reality. To be that authority, it must be absolute throughout the universe, bar no space. This is why the Hebrew boys and Daniel and those that Hebrew calls the Hall of Faith, this is why they all spoke out and said, "My God shall supply whatever is necessary. My God shall deliver." You see, they had found that one thing that could not be moved. What was it called? Belief. Not to just agree because we see things reproducing or seasons changing or any or all of the seemingly unexplained things that occur on a daily basis. The question is there an all-powerful, all-knowing, ever-present entity at the source of all this? This is where our investigation becomes focused. He who comes to God must first what? Believe that he exists and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. That's a lot of work. A lot of work. And you'll be working at this while you're still dealing with your friends and neighbors And that's why he says, go into the closet and close the door and keep yourself quiet, that you might happily find him. Because when you find him, then you will know that he does exist. But the reality of God, now you can understand why there appear to be atheists in this world. Because the reality of God has been argued for centuries. And it's a split decision. Why? Because most people try to identify God in a way that is good or congenial to their beliefs, thereby misinterpreting God, and some even saying he doesn't exist. Most saying he exists, but he's not reliable. Some saying he exists, but why did he take my loved one away? He exists, and I am mad at him because he won't talk to me. All these things they have created. But the one that truly finds God is the one that does what? Be still and know that I am God. And to do this is to believe that there is something that is going to reveal itself in such a way that you will have no doubt. Something you can rely on. Yeah, I'm trying to get you to see the depth of believing. The depth of believing. Many people believe that they can ask God to do something and he's going to respond. It's much like, I'm going to live my life and God, you know I love you. You know I do. So give me this. Give me that. But the bottom line is, have you reached the depth of believing that confirms to you that this is the way? The scriptures tell us that when we find him, there will come a voice behind us. That when we have to make a decision to either go left or right, we will hear a voice. What will it say? This is the way. This is the one who has reached the root of believing. Many state that they do believe in an all-powerful God, and yet they hold attachments to the very things that they are instructed to separate themselves from. This must be proven beyond doubt. What? The existence of God. And who can I prove it to? Remember in the scriptures that they came to Jesus? And what did they say? Prove to us. Do something that will convince us. And Jesus said, you look for a sign. But I tell you, you will only receive the sign of Jonah. And immediately, look at your identification. It runs off to a great big fish, doesn't it? Swallowing up a man. What is Jesus saying? Jesus is saying when you fill the earth for 3 days and 3 nights, that means a time period of maturation when you fall to the earth and die to the world as you know it. And he uses symbolic 3 days. What is he actually saying? He's saying there's a maturation process, not necessarily 3 24-hour periods, but the time and intensity and focus that you spend to understand that 2 Corinthians chapter 4 states, it is explained here that They that believe in God look not at the things, they are not persuaded or influenced by the things that are seen. That right there ought to stop us. They are not persuaded or influenced by the things that are seen. In another place it says, love not the world nor the things of the world. For he who loves the world proves that the love of God is not in him. In another place, John says, for the world, now get this, this is over 2,000 years ago. In another place he says, for the world lieth in wickedness. Now, if it was in wickedness then, what is it today? And yet we find people saying, we can save it. We can fix it. No, you can't. Because the purification, here we go with that picture again. The world was destroyed by water or flood, and God said, I won't do it anymore. Which symbolized wiping all the non-believers, non-belief from the face of the earth. He says, the next time I'm going to purify it with what? Fire. And most people think the world is going to burn up through nuclear activity or whatever, when in actuality, he's talking about the purification of the spirit of truth that enters a man's consciousness and burns away all untruth. You see, we must have the gift of discernment, the gift of understanding. We look not at the things which are seen, for they are temporal, but we look at the things which are seen. Who has heard such a thing? How can you see that which is not seen? Oh, you've done it many times. Look at the things you figured out while you were sitting watching TV, and all of a sudden something, the answer popped in your head to something. You saw something that was not seen to the visible world. It's called the spirit of discernment when it's focused on spiritual matters. The things that are temporal, they change. Their value is not stable. They cannot be depended upon. But we look and see that which is unseen. We are actually seeing that which is not visible, as I stated before, and we know it to be what? True, unchangeable, stable, and dependable. And we have instances that we use every day to prove these things to us. We know how far a $5 bill can go. We know that there's not a $10,000 bill. We know that there's no longer a $3 bill. We know how far a quarter will go. Those are things that we know, and they are dependable until what? You go to another country maybe, and they have either inflated the value or deflated the value, and you quickly find that value to be dependable where you are. Well, truth, when found, never changes. It is always true, always unchangeable, always stable, always dependable. This, my friend, is believing. For one to truly and completely believe in God, they must seek with the expectation that their final conclusion will be a reward that will always yield the same results, such as H2O. The numbering system, how it works: add, subtract, multiply, divide. Even when you go into the higher equations of algebra, trigonometry, calculus, those same numbers keep the same value. That which they have found is in fact that which they will rely on without question or doubt. This is believing. All things are put under God's care, and all things are provided because he cares. See? We must question ourselves as to whether we are keeping something out, whether we have a plan B and guess God doesn't work. But the bottom line is, he says, whosoever shall come unto me, I will in no wise cast out. Why? Because he has set his love upon me. I will watch over him and his affairs. What are you afraid of losing? And trust me, if you lose it, what are you going to do to find it? Where are you going to go? Oh, I'm not talking about just some physical trinket that you dropped in the house, dropped on the yard, accidentally threw in the trash can. I'm talking about that major thing that really, really concerns you. Your health, your wealth, your relationships. Those are the things. He says, do not fear. Why? Because I am with you. This is believing. Your Heavenly Father knows what things you have need of. Do you believe that? If you do, this is believing. To take no thought or concern for anything. Know that the Father knows what things we have need of. Oh my gosh, this is believing. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Yeah, I know how easy it is for me to repeat these things, but I must hold myself accountable for believing them. I can't hold God. I told someone today, in the rightfulness of living, and I need you to understand this, the church should be highly upset and furious with the pastors. Yep, I said it. Why? Because the pastor is the one who must have faith beyond the 5 physical senses. The pastor should be taking care of the congregation. The congregation should not be taking care of the pastor. The children of Israel did not take care of Moses. Moses took care of them. Joshua took care of them. In the Old Testament, the prophets stayed where they were and people went to them for solutions. The prophets walked through the land and people decided to do for them because they saw the holiness. That's why I say the pastor should not be telling people you need more faith. No, the people should be riding the pastor's faith, that he should lead them to the door. He can't push them in, and he can't show them what to do after they enter, but he can show them through his faith that they would want to enter in and have their own faith justified. Rest assured, this is the way. And yet, every day, every week, the people simply do what? Pastor, will you preach this funeral? Pastor, will you pray for me? And they don't really look for results. Why? Because they have accepted the way of this world as it appears. Maybe God will, maybe God won't. But the bottom line is, God said, when you believe, you shall ask in my name. And whatsoever you ask, I will do it. We rest assured that this is so. We do not hope. We do not pray. We know that our harmony is secure. This is believing. The only way to be completely sure that God exists is to experience him in relationship. He who has found the presence of the Lord shall not stumble at his word. The Lord will grant unto him the ability to take on his rightful identity and speak the words that have been placed in his lips. The confession of his conviction. And the conviction that causes him to confess. This one, in essence, becomes the holy chalice, reproving the world because it has not believed on him that God has sent. This is the great principle. Understood. Thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. I will be with thee. Only with thine eye shall you see the destruction of the wicked. It is I that will say to that which challenges, thus far and no closer, I am the Lord. I change not. H2O, I am with you always. Gravity. I will go before you to make the crooked path straight. Principle understood. O King, we are not slight. We are not fearful, for we know that our God is with us. Principle. Paul, even though I have not attained to the fullness, this I do know. Heights, depths, things past, things present, things future, things to come. None of these move me. For whether I be on this side of the veil or that side of the veil, I have been crucified. The life that I thought I was, the one I thought I lived in, is dead. Christ now lives my life. Principle understood. But you say, how can I do this? Father, this is the day that thou hast made. I ask of you this day, just this day, give me this day that bread. Let this bread come unto me this day. That's all I'm asking for, just this day. And I will honor you to the highest, to the best of my ability, because you love me. Principle understood. This now becomes a full rejoicing. That's right. See, now we talked about believing. when that principle is understood, it now turns into a full rejoicing. Why? Because that which is not a reality is cast out. With open eyes, we now see the Lord before us. As David said, I purpose to see the Lord always at my right hand. He wasn't looking at somebody walking beside him. He was looking into the eternal others and realizing he had found God. And now he could rejoice. That's why he danced in the street to the shame of his wife. And yet the Lord loved him, and his wife was punished for judging him. Because this one has reached the depth of believing, he is rewarded with the gift of rejoicing. Rejoice because he need be careful for nothing. Rejoice because he is thankful. Rejoice because believing has brought a peace that keeps his heart and mind. He rejoices because his believing has brought the peace that erases all misunderstanding. He rejoices because he has found principle. I will be what I will be, for I am with you always. Be not afraid. As often as you put H2O together and rejoice at water, be not afraid. As often as you acknowledge me as the core of all things, you can rejoice. Rejoice because he who has not seen now sees. And though even now, that which we call the Son of God, even though now that which we call the Spirit, the Christ of God, even though he does not appear, we see him because we have found belief. We rejoice with joy unspeakable. We are filled with glory, receiving the end of our faith, even the salvation of our soul. Find belief and rejoice. Let us pray. Thank you, Father. Our eyes, our ears, our hopes, our dreams, we receive now. No longer do we seek you because we know where you are. This is the day that the manna falls, and it falls in fertile soil. Speak, Lord. Your servant is listening.